Hey, you guys, good to see you wherever you are in the world. And I love to see you put your name and where you're from in the chat because we always like to see who's joining us. And happy Thursday to you. So some of you guys are in Thursday evening, and some of you, I don't know, maybe you're even into Friday. That would be interesting to tell us in your time zone what time it is, what day it is. You could tell us what's going to happen in the future. I always thought, like when I call my friends in Australia, they could tell me what's going to happen with the stock market because it's already a day ahead. I don't know why that trick doesn't work and why somebody else hasn't thought of it already, because that's pretty cool. Well, Jared's here. How about the rest of you guys? Tell us where you are. And here's what we're going to do today, you guys. We're going to be talking about natural light. Natural light, not artificial light, not the stuff that comes out of LEDs like this over here. The stuff that comes out of this window right here. That's natural light. And we're going to take a look at some cool tips. I do want to know what your issues are, if you have any challenges, so we can deal with those. Okay. From Brazil, I don't want to mess up your name, and it's 14:01. I have to stop and think here. PM. So what is that, 2 p.m.? Our time, my time.
Yeah, I think that's
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
So you're only not too many hours ahead, 4 hours. And hey, Amy, I know where you are, so you're 3 hours ahead. And then we got Terry in Dallas. It's 12:02. Yep, you're in Central Time. Okay, kind of cool. We're all in the same place, but at different times. Isn't that kind of spooky? Twilight Zone-y? And Joe from Louisiana. Okay. And Louisiana is what? That's Eastern, so you're at 1:03. Okay. Okay, cool, guys. So, my gosh. Divya, what time is it there? And Pembrokeshire, it's at 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. rather.
That's in Wales, I believe.
I guess it is. That's Juniper. Okay. And Stefan in Denmark, it must be, 8 hours ahead? Okay, pretty cool. So you guys want to know something about lighting, right? I mean, wouldn't that be a good thing to know about, since photography means light writing with light? But I guess we better begin at the beginning here. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to just throw this in right now. If you haven't done so, please subscribe and enable the bell so you don't miss any of our new episodes coming up. And you know that I'm a photographer, author, and filmmaker in Carmel, California. And this show is brought to you by our friends at Bay Photo Lab. Okay, listen, you guys. This is the best deal I've ever seen. 25% on all their photographic prints. Now, here's the deal. Read this over. They make prints from 10 different photo papers, including luster, matte, glossy, metallic, silk, Fuji, deep matte, velvet, Fuji pearl, Fuji flex, and Fuji maxima. There's 10 different types of paper you can choose to make your prints 25% off. So if you would normally pay, let's do some math here. Jared, you're the math guy around here. Let's say they pay $20 for a print. It's going to cost them what? $15, right? Am I right on that? $15. You save $5 on that print. So listen, there's the code right there. Jared will put it in the chat. You guys should head over, not now, but when we're done, head over to our friends at Bay Photo Lab, because you need prints and they make them and they'll give you a good deal. So there you go. Also, if you want to do some drum scanning, which I recommend if you've got negatives, I have a ton of negatives and I've scanned a lot of them, but not all of them. This is super high quality scan, and that's 20% off on those. So consider that with your best negatives, sending them to Bay Photo Lab. They'll scan them and they'll send them back to you. And as always, you'll get 25% off on your first order. These guys are awesome, and you guys know that you need prints, so don't hesitate. Okay, So now that we know where some of you guys are, Stefan is in somewhere where it's 7 p.m. Oh, in Denmark. There you are. And Algeria. Oh my goodness, what time is it there? I think it's central. I think it's European. Same thing, right? 7 o'clock. I kind of fascinating. We're meeting on YouTube at the same time, but in different times. What a weird thing is that? I mean, imagine that like 100 years ago, wrapping your wits around that. How that is even possible. Okay. Let's talk about lighting. And again, I'd like you guys to throw into the chat any questions or challenges you have. But I want to start with a short clip.
Oh, but before that, we should make sure that everybody knows that they should subscribe.
Yeah, I told them to do that a moment ago, but let's tell them again.
Oh, did we? Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
That's okay. We're going to do it again. Subscribe again.
And you should like the video, too.
Enable the bell. Like the video, because that definitely helps us find other people, and other people find us. So there you go. Thanks, Jared. It's always good to have you remind me. Okay, here's the deal. I'm going to play you a short clip from two of my favorite guests, Bambi Cantrell and Matthew Jordan Smith. Matthew Jordan Smith will be coming on first. He is a phenomenal portrait photographer, celebrity photographer, wonderful, warm human being. Bambi Cantrell, same, ditto. I love these guys. Bambi is also a portrait photographer. They both work primarily with natural light. They do have, studio lighting as well, but their primary lighting source is natural light. Like I'm sitting in my office here, my studio, and I have a window that's facing north, okay, which is cool, just like Vermeer. And that's where most of the light is coming in, but I do have an LED over here supplementing it. So let's listen without further ado. Let's get him up here. Let's listen to what our friend Matthew Jordan Smith has to say. We'll probably stop at the end of that and discuss it a little bit. So here he is.
What are some good tips for lighting?
If you're outside, be aware of the light. Be aware where the sun is. Is the sun very high? If the sun's very high, you have these shadows under your eyes, under your nose. It's not very flattering. But as that sun comes down, around like 5, 6, 7 o'clock, you get this beautiful light. The light's right in your face. And it takes out all the shadows, all the age out of your face. Make that light as even as possible on your face, on your subject's face as you're shooting. So that old rule of having the sun at your back really works. Same thing in the studio. Having that light imitate the sun, where it's down at this angle where it's coming right at you. I know a lot of people have the light off to the side a lot and casting, shadows, and that's not always flattering. Make that light look like the sun at the end of the day. Follow that law and you'll do well all the time.
Lighting is the foundation of everything.
Let's stop and talk there about what he said. So think about that. If you look at the sun, and he's talking about a couple of things here, but as the sun comes down, we know that we're getting longer wavelengths. That's what's happening with the golden hour. You're getting those longer wavelengths of light, and those are warm light, and that's very flattering on the skin, as he said. It's a opposite would be in the middle of the day, harsh sunlight. We'll find all the shadows. That's not a good look. Not good at all. But if you want to get a beautiful portrait, it's not just, we think of golden hours a lot for landscape photography, because the sun is going down, it's golden, it's hitting like Half Dome, and it's that alpine glow off of Half Dome, which is really beautiful, but it's true for people as well. And it will soften their skin. So take advantage of that. Remember, he's talking about as it comes down, you get, think about it, you're getting, instead of like light coming straight down like that, it's coming at an angle. And because of what happens with the atmosphere of Earth, we're getting these different colors, and that's changing the wavelength. We're getting different colors spectrums. So we're going more into the warmer and warmer and warmer. And of course, after the sun goes down, you get into the blue light. That wouldn't be particularly great for portraiture, but that's really interesting for photographing a village. Let's say how Bob Holmes does it. He waits for the blue hour, which happens after sunset. Look at the sky. You'll see that it just starts turning really blue. That's because the color of the light is now blue. But Bob's tip on that is to photograph with the blue sky, the blue color in the sky, but also pick out lighting sources like a tungsten light, which is a regular light in a you might find in a ceiling or a reading lamp or something like that. He has these incredible photographs of Cuba, like I think of one in the barber shop where it's very dark blue, but then there's this other lighting source. And he says he likes to use mixed lighting, which is also another cool tip. So you can mix your natural lighting, what's going on in, Mother Nature is providing the lighting source, with man-made lighting. Going back to what Matthew said, think of it, if you are going to do studio lighting and you're moving your light around, think of it like the sun. Where do you want that light? You don't want it overhead like this unless you really are going for harsh shadows. There is a film noir look, which is very shadowy, very moody looking. Okay, maybe that's what you're looking for. Fine. But if you want a flattering portrait, emulate. Think about it in terms of what is the sun going to do here, and what would the sun, how would it work in terms of that flattering look? Okay, like right now I have this LED over here, and I have window light over here, and they're balanced. That's another tip. Balance your light sources, which means color temperature is what, and we could get into a whole theory of this, and sometime I really do want to do a color theory class with you guys. But various color temperatures basically go from a very cold or blue light, and as it gets warmer and warmer and warmer, we say that the color temperature is getting higher. There's a reason for that, because that's actually the temperature that particular color, when it's raised to, puts out light at that temperature. Blue light is a lower temperature. Red, orange, they get higher and higher. That's why it's called color temperature. So another tip is make sure you're balancing your light sources. I actually have this LED balanced with this window light. I use an app. It's called Filmic, which is actually a filmmaking app, but it reads color temperature. So I can put it on over here. I'll pop it up here. I can put it on, go to the window, and then I can go to the LED light source, and I can change the LED. I can't change the window's color temperature. I'm not that good yet. Wait a minute, let me dial the sun down here a little bit. But I can change the color temperature over here. So what I'm going to do is just show you, see if I can get this going here quickly enough. So if you can see this, here, let's put it right there. It's kind of reflecting. So anyway, you can't see that too well. I could pop this in here, but over here, you can see the various color temperatures, and I can actually read the number on there. So if I point it to the window, the color temperature is about 5,500. Actually, yeah, about 5,500. And the color temperature over here, it's about almost, it's within 100 degrees, which is close enough. So that's another thing. Don't have, unless you want to do these things on purpose, okay, maybe you do, but it's good to have your lighting sources balanced out. When we shoot with video and studio, we always balance out these light sources. We don't want to have the sun light coming in at one color temperature and then, blue light coming in over here. It's not going to look great. Okay, so here's kind of summary. Use the sun as your stable reference point. What is that sun doing? Make your studio lights do that. Watch what the sun is doing. Another thing is look at where the reflections are occurring. So if you're at the beach, for instance, there's a lot of reflected light coming off the white sand. Same thing with going out on a sidewalk. So you got to take that into consideration. Not only where it's coming from above, but if it's hitting something like white sand, pavement, concrete, a lake, a river, whatever, there's going to be a lot of reflected light back going up. So just watch that. The basic thing here, guys, is just get really tuned in to what that light is doing. Remember, photography means photo, means light. Ography is writing. It's lithography, that means writing. We're writing with light. So if you're writing with light, you want to know what that light is doing and just pay attention to it. And now on that note, let's listen to what Bambi Cantrell has to say about that, because she's going to talk to us about that right now.
In my personal opinion, that's what you have to start with, is learning how to see the world and see what light does. You see, shadows and light, they are what create and give an image its definition, its dimensionality. So the first thing I do when I walk into a room is I take my hand like this and I start looking at the shadow areas on my hand as I walk around the room and see, is there a highlight on my hand somewhere? Okay, well I can see that there's a little kicker light coming across my hand on this side from the windows over there, and then the main light is coming from this direction over here. So it helps me to see where I want to place my subject in relation to the light source.
Be sure to subscribe.
Well, there you go.
Now to stay.
You're going to subscribe for sure. Okay, so that's a really, really cool tip, you guys. Simple. Hold your hand up. Listen, let's get rid of this fast food. We got to go in and start shooting right away. Let's do a little bit more of a reconnaissance and see where the light source is. So hold your hand up, just like she says. Now look at what's happening with my hand. Notice all that light right there. Where's that coming from? It's coming from this light source over here. Now if I look at the back of my hand, you can't see it, but it's all shadowy. If I hold my hand up over here, notice also I'm getting light coming in from that window. So she said that tells you where to place your subject. You would want to place me, and I've done films this way, facing this window light. Again, it's going to be flattering light. It's diffused light, because outside the window, there's a whole bunch of trees. So there's no direct sunlight hitting me. And that diffused light is actually very flattering, and it's a great way to photograph your subjects. So you've got a window in your room, in your house, in your apartment, wherever you are. I'm sure you've got at least one window, right? Ideally, you find a north-facing window. Why? Because where's the sun going? It's rising up over here. It's coming up this way, and it's going to set over here in the west. So north face will give you a kind of a diffused, for the most part, not all day, but you're going to have more likely diffused light, not direct sunlight hitting the person. And we're going to talk about our friend Vermeer here in a minute. But take a moment. Just like we talked about in visualization, don't just pull the camera to your face and start shooting. Walk around, look at your area without a camera pressed to your face. Camera is a tool. You don't want to just try to think through the camera all the time. You want to use your eyes, use your observation. When I go shoot a video or portraiture, I really want to look at the environment. I really want to see where those shadows are, what the walls look like, where is it bouncing? Is it bouncing up from the floor? Is it coming off the ceiling? Really pay attention to all that stuff, because you're working with that. That's your raw material. And slow down. Slow down. Take a moment. Take it all in, and that'll help you build your natural lighting scene. Okay? I haven't seen any questions here yet. You guys don't have any questions? If you do, please pop them in there. Okay, so that's point number one. I want to start with those two guys. They're fantastic photographers. After the show, go look at their work on my channel. I have a lot of interviews with both of them, and you guys should, definitely dig in. You could just, in fact, do a search in my YouTube channel for lighting, and you'll see a whole ton of videos on natural lighting. We're just scraping the surface here. So do that after the show. Watch these things. Travel photography with natural lighting. Okay, good. Yeah, that's a definite question. Let's take that up. Okay, so I'm going to just cover some things out of this book here. Let me get myself, I'm going to put myself into this. Whoop, nah, I don't want that. Sorry. Okay, whatever. So this book, Advancing Your Photography, is a good book. If you do not have this book, you should have it. You know why? I wrote it for a reason. It really is an all-around handbook of photography. You should read it. You should refer to it. You should have it in your camera bag. You should have the physical copy of it. And you can get it if you just pay for the shipping and handling. We'll send you the book. Jared will stick the link in there. If you don't already own it, you should get it. I'm not kidding. It's a good book. And it's got a lot of information in it. So I'm going to cover a couple of pages here out of this. Page 105, our friend Joe McNally coined the term language of light. And think of light as a language. Think of it in terms of, if you're speaking a language, you got to know the words, right? You got to have a vocabulary. Well, think of light like that. What's the vocabulary of light? I talk about that in terms of composition. There's a vocabulary of composition. There's things like leading lines. That's one form of vocabulary. It's a set of concepts that help you tell your story. There's diagonal lines. There's how you frame the shot. There's putting things on angles. Those are all different parts of your vocabulary. In light, it's the same thing. We've got a vocabulary. What have we got? We've got things like the golden hours, which we talked about. We've got the blue hour. That's another part of your vocabulary. We've got diffused light. That's another way of thinking of light as a language. We've got very direct, harsh light. Maybe you want that. We've got, these are different ways that you are going to write with light. And you should know these things and start paying attention to them if you're not already doing so. Okay, so Joe talks about that, and I really want you to think like what Bambi was talking about. How does the light strike your subject? How does it strike your hand? And as you notice that, you'll see that you can move around, and maybe that light really changes as you move around. If you're facing directly into the sunlight or facing away from it, obviously that's going to be very different. Okay, so let's see what else is in this book here. There we go. Okay, this you probably heard me talk about before. Vermeer lighting is very flattering. Many photographers use it as their stable point. Bob Holmes talks about it. And Vermeer lighting, here's the thing. He had one lighting source here, this window. He actually blocked out, in his studio, he blocked out the other light sources. So we only have one light source hitting the milkmaid here. And notice, I really like this, this painting because it's very photographic. And you can learn a lot from how he used light. So it's hitting her bodice. Notice how that's well lit. But look at the shadows over here under the table. Of course there's shadows there. There's no light there. There's shadows in the corner. And that gives you a lot of feeling of depth, doesn't it? Look at how much depth you have. And one of the tricks with photography, it's not really a trick, but what we're trying to do is take a two-dimensional source and turn it into something that looks three-dimensional. That adds a feeling and it adds depth, and that's going to make your photographs pop. Anytime you can add depth to your photograph, it's just going to look more interesting. And again, that's true with painting, it's true with filmmaking. Think about it in terms of depth. How can I add depth to it? And one way to add depth is to have shadows like he has here. And that shadowing, you can see the shadowy parts fall naturally farther away. The brighter parts tend to come closer to your eye. That's just how it works. So take a moment, look at your artist, whether it's Vermeer, maybe you look at Rembrandt, who obviously was a master of lighting. stop and look and analyze. What did they do? How did they light their subject? How did it come across on the canvas? That's another way of, in our case, our frame. That is their frame. You can learn a lot from this. You can learn a tremendous amount by looking at these great artists and then going out and practicing it. Set up your room with a single light source like I have here. Put your subject, face them towards the window or away from the window. Take a variety of photographs to see, what happens when they're, like in her case, she's only lit from the side here and the other side is shadowy. That's actually a great look. Rembrandt did that, and he had, we call it Rembrandt lighting, and there's actually a little patch under the nose, which is a sort of a signature look of Rembrandt lighting. But this is how you're going to learn. The best way to learn about lighting is to look at classical art and see how those artists used it, because they know a lot about light, because that was one of their, the main things they were working with. Okay, we'll get around to that question about travel photography in a minute. So this is an example of Bob Holmes. He says there's really three main types of light that you're working with. You have light coming in from a source, like, going back to Vermeer here. One source, could be multiple sources, but there's a light entering the frame. In this case, the light is outside entering the frame. That's one main way of lighting. But then there's also this one. This is a really cool example. The light is within the frame. It's in this fire here. Everything is being lit from that fire. All the light is coming from within the frame. And that's fairly common. Like if you go into a room, if I close this window here, for instance, and I pulled this LED light over, it would be all within the frame. So look for that, and that's a very dramatic, cool look, as you can see with this photograph of Bob. And then the other third one is light that just kind of bounces around all over the place. I mean, there's more light techniques or styles or categories than those, but these are kind of the main ones. So lighting that hits a number of places, bam, 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 bam. You got to look at, well, where is it going to end up on my subject? And if there's, it could look great. It could, it could add a whole bunch of like shadowy features to their face, which again could be cool if that's what you want. But if you want a clean, clear portrait, that's probably not what you want. So you might want to move them out of like where the light is directly hitting their skin and maybe get more of a diffused look if that's what you're looking for. Play around with these things. My best advice is try these things out, experiment, see what it looks like, test, constantly test. This is how you're going to elevate your photography, because what we don't want to do is get stuck in a mold. And, we only shoot during the golden hours. Okay, golden hours are beautiful, but that's not the only time of day. What are you going to do in the middle of the day if you want to take a portrait? How are you going to deal with that? Well, I'll show you what you do. Let me see if I can find this. I'm gonna pull back to. Oh yeah, here we go. Bob Holmes here. We got him earlier. Yeah, this is the one I want. Okay, so in this example of Bob, so he was photographing this farmer in Cuba. So it's harsh sunlight. If you look out the window here, or beyond him, you can see it's bright sunlight over here. So what do you do so we don't blow out all the highlights and get these ugly shadows on the subject? He had him turn around with his back to the light, so he's backlit. You can see like his ear there. You can see the light hitting the ear. That's backlight. But also because he's got this hat on, now it creates shade for his face. That's what you do. So go find a shady spot, or in this case, he had the hat. There's also a bit of shade, I think, occurring because of this roof right here. Yeah, see, it's actually shading you can see just the edge of his shirt here. The light is coming in. So a combination of the shade coming from the roof and the shade from the hat is making a really beautiful portrait. He didn't have to wait till the end of the day. Now, travel photography, so that question came up. Travel photography, what's the question? How do we prepare for travel photography? Use the light tools that we already mentioned. Look at where the light is coming from. Maybe you need a reflector. Do you want to pack a lot of stuff? Like Bob Holmes says, he doesn't carry any. I don't either. I don't carry lighting gear and stuff. He wants to travel light. When you're doing travel photography, you want to be nimble and be able to move around and not have to have 12 people trailing behind you with lighting equipment. So he relies on natural lighting, but let's say you need your subject's face a little more lit up. Let's say it's too much in shadow. Well, what can you do? You can get a reflector. So do you want to carry a big reflector? You can get one of those fold-up reflectors. They're not that big a deal. But you can also find natural reflectors. In our course with Bob Holmes, where I followed him around for 2 days, which you guys should be watching. You should watch that course. Okay. It's a great course because we get to see him in action. We were photographing in a winery, and yes, we had the subject, but he wanted her eyes to pop. He wanted some light in her eyes, which always looks good. We get the kick light in the eyes. So how do we do that? Well, it turned out there was a silver tray sitting on a counter. It was in a winery or tasting room. And there was a silver tray that I held up for him. And I bounced the light because it was silver and it reflected. And I bounced it by just turning it very slightly into her eyes. And that got catch lights, just like we use with studio lighting. Very good look, right? And that was just impromptu. We found the tray. Now, if we didn't have a tray, what else could we have used? We could use a newspaper even. Bob Holmes talks about that. Get a newspaper. He hires for little trinkets or whatever, get a little bit of money, some of the local kids to hold a newspaper for him. Go over there a little bit, move that way. Okay, good. There it is. Bam. You can also wear a white t-shirt. This is not going to reflect what I'm wearing, but you could wear a white t-shirt which will reflect back on your subject. You can get reflectors very easily, by the way, really inexpensively. Go to Home Depot or Lowe's, get these sheets of insulation that have a shiny surface on it, and it will reflect that way. You can also turn it around and it's white, so you can change the reflectivity, so you don't want quite as much bounce. You just turn it around, use the white side. Peter Hurley talked about just using, this was how he started his career. He didn't have a studio at all. He was working out of his apartment with a window. But then he added those light reflectors, and he went down and got them at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever it was in the city there. And that's how he started. And then later, obviously, he added more stuff. That's the other important tip. Do not overcomplicate your lighting. If you're going to use artificial light, add one light source and use that, get really used to it. And then add on top of that. You can add more light sources. You can add more reflectors. But don't think you got to go out and buy this big fancy kit right away. I remember going to not Home Depot, to B&H in New York, and I was looking for some lighting stuff. And the sales guy talked me out of buying their fancy stuff. He says, you can put together one of these kits yourself if you want, really inexpensively. Go to Home Depot and get some LED lights. They're really like a quarter of the price. So think in terms of that. All right. Those are kind of the main things I wanted to cover. So what other questions? Jared, do you see any other questions that popped up that I should be answering here?
Did we get to, Terry was asking about using handheld reflectors.
Oh, there we go.
I know that you had mentioned briefly.
How can, handheld reflectors be used? Okay. Oh, you got the book and you got it. It's great. Thank you. Dropped it in the toilet. What? Okay. Yeah, don't do that. And thank you for buying all 3 of the books. I love it. And, if you got all 3 of them, you also got this book on creativity. So that's great. Well, I think I answered that question. What about handheld reflectors? Yes, you can buy the fold-up ones. Those are handy. I do have one of those. And then you can use, let's say I was out shooting and I saw this YouTube, this is my word for YouTube, but it's really shiny and it would actually work. So look for shiny things that you can use as reflectors. Think about it in terms of what's available, easy to use, and that's a good place to start. Okay, any other questions, you guys? And thank you again.
Jake made a comment. I bought a big fancy kit and it just sits there.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that true? So it's kind of like exercise equipment. You could go out and spend a ton of money on fancy stuff, or you could do push-ups. Doesn't cost you anything, but you're gonna exercise. You can do crunches, right? And push-ups and pull-ups, and that's hardly anything. Put a bar on your door, and it isn't. This is kind of our theme here with AYP. It isn't about the equipment. It's about how you use the equipment. And yeah, sure, if you want your lighting sources, go for it. I think my audio, you guys, you're still there, right? Technical difficulties. Oh, I gotta let Jared back in. So there you are, Jared. Don't you love that? I gotta fix that because that's not too cool. Somehow it just flicked off and turned it off. But thank you guys for sticking around. Yeah, Jake said he did the same thing with the exercise equipment. I believe in adding equipment as you need it, and keep it. Like, use something, get really good at it, and then you go, okay, I do need another lighting source. I'm going to buy this kit, because I've already used it. So it's a better way of going about it. I'm just going to check things, make sure you guys are still, you're still there with me. We dropped off momentarily, but we're there. Okay, Jared, are you there? Am I hearing you? Maybe I need to. No, you should be here, but I'm not hearing you. Okay, I don't know why that is, but remove from green room. I'm going to put you back in.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. When you went off, it removed you. Okay, any other questions that you're seeing there, Jared? I would love to take these things up.
Yeah, just one thing that kind of goes. Jake made a comment. Somebody was asking about lighting. For rings, and he was talking about how there's these light rings that you can get. They're $20.
Yeah.
And I think that just once again goes to show that sometimes the cheaper options are better than
Oh yeah, these light
like
rings.
the really expensive things. And natural light is the cheapest form that you get.
Yes,
altogether.
It's free. Doesn't cost you anything.
But yeah, and we're big believers. I mean, we watched a video a while ago where they were interviewing. I can't remember his name, but it was like, what would you do if you had like $2,000?
Right.
And it's like I'd buy like a $500 camera and then spend the rest of the money on lessons and classes
education.
And education.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's more worth it than buying another fancy lighting kit or a brand new camera. That education is the way. Learning how things work is better than just buying some new equipment.
Yeah, that is very true. It's what we call, and it's in my book here, about the two traps that you can get into. One is the equipment trap, where you think, wow, if I only had that cool lens, or I only had, that fancy lighting deal, or I only had a new camera body, if you need it and it's really going to serve you and you really know how to use it, great, go for it. But chances are you've already got what you need. And definitely natural lighting is right out the door. Okay, here is this question going on. What would be your best advice? How to learn about natural light? I really have already given you that. So go look at the light, photograph, and then look at your results. But take note of what's going on with the light. Okay, so challenge yourself. I'm going to go photograph at noon, high noon, sunlight's directly overhead. What am I going to do with that? If I'm shooting portraiture, what am I going to do? How am I going to deal with that? Well, the easiest thing to do is go find a shady spot. Like, there's a place where we've shot a lot of my videos. It's a park, which is a block away from my house. And inside this park, there's this little glen with redwood trees. Jared and I have shot there numerous times, right, Jared?
Yep, lots of times.
And what's cool about it is it's filtered light. It's coming through the redwood trees. Outside on the trail, it can be like, bam, sunlight coming down like this. But inside this glen, it's all filtered. It's perfect shade. So you got to look for these places. The best thing I can do to tell you is go observe. Use your eyes. Go look at what's going on out there. And photograph, test, come back and look at it on your computer, and you can start to see what works and what doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Really is how you learn.
I think one quick analogy that can kind of work with how similar it is. I'm an audio miner, and I've done a lot of work for audio. And when I'm doing it a lot and I'm practicing and I'm recording the audio and such, I can get to a point where I can like just talk in a room and I listen and I basically see where are the reflections, where is the sound coming from. But here's the other thing too. I only get that good when I've been doing it a lot. If I don't do it for a while, then I lose that skill a little bit because it gets rusty. So not only do you have to do it, but you need to do it frequently. And that's the better you're going to be at it, the more you do it and the more frequently you do it. So
absolutely.
That's my recommendation on that.
We have Jeff Hoser showing up. Now, Jeff, many years ago, going back to 2009, I think, we shot a little tip with you. It's in our library in AYP, and he says it can't have a lot of light in a room that you edit in, so a ring light or other source is a solution. Well, if you're editing and you don't want to have if it's bouncing off your screen, it's going to be hard to edit with. So the ring light could be really a handy solution for that. It's true. I personally have never used a ring light, so I can't give you any feedback.
My dad has one, and he just got that for helping with Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
And it works pretty well. And I know, like somebody else said, a lot of YouTubers use it and such.
Yeah.
We happen to have the equipment for, a little bit more than that because we do shoot a lot of videos in other locations. So.
And I've just got this one window here, Premiere lighting over here, and then I supplement it with that. And, I think it looks not too bad. Okay, are there any other questions you guys have? Now is your chance. What I want you to do is I want you to practice. It does no good to just listen to a bunch of stuff and go, oh, that was really cool, Mark. I like what Matthew Jordan Smith said. Bambi Cantrell. If you don't put it to use, it will not be owned by you. And there's another way you can own, and I talk about this in our AYP Plus classes, which you guys should be in, by the way. Jared, put a link there. We meet every Tuesday as a group. It's a Zoom meeting, so we open up microphones. Right now we're going through projects. So everybody's got a project, and you can join anytime and start your project. Projects are going to elevate your photography. From single photographs, you're telling a story, and many of our class are going to be printing these in a book. You can print books with Bay Photo, for instance. They will print a book for you. And that takes your photography to a new level because you're going from one single photograph to a series of photographs and putting them together and probably putting some text in there as well. And it's a really cool feeling to publish and see, even if it's a thin little zine, it's got 20 pages. It's a really cool feeling to have that and give it to friends or sell it even. You can sell your books. Anyway, every Tuesday we meet. People are photographing during the week, and then they show their work. We do critiquing. And more than just critiquing the photographs, is we're showing it to the community and getting feedback. This is your initial response before you go out anywhere else It's a safe community of like-minded photographers called AYP Plus, and you guys should definitely, everybody on this broadcast should be in there, because you're gonna keep learning. For the price of like what you pay for Starbucks every week, you can get great photography education. All right, so practice. Do these things that I covered today. They're in this book, so you don't have to, take big notes. Get a copy of the book. You'll read it over and go out and use it, put it to use. And that's how you can elevate your photography. Remember, it's called advancing your photography, because I want you to keep advancing continuously. Never plateau. You're always going to the next level. All right, guys. Well, I thank you for joining us. It's been great having you here. And before we go, I am going to remind you to subscribe, and you got to enable the bell. That bell on YouTube will let you know that we've published a new video. And we put stuff out 5 days a week. So there's stuff there.
Yeah. We got a lot of shorts up now.
A lot of
so
shorts.
If you just want your 1 minute tip, check out those shorts.
Yeah. Okay, and other than that, other than subscribing, be sure to like the video, leave your comments. This video will go up, and if you're watching this not live, leave your comments and questions. We will answer them. And stay tuned. We're going to put together a whole new schedule for August, and we'll have some cool stuff coming your way. All right? So thank you guys again for joining. And as always, I'm going to say this, and I'd like you to say this with me, wherever you are in the world, because I know you're all over the place. Remember to get out and capture your own images of life. Take care, guys. Stay creative, and I'll see you soon.